obviously, man, you're a professional and you do things the right way. But with this one, man, with this being so close, was there any part of you that thought, I don't know that I need to be in the booth for this fight?
You know, I I've always said no to calling my teammates fights. Um, but as I move into the second phase of my life, I have to. It's my job, and it wasn't like a decision made like on a whim. It was a lot of people asking, "Can Daniel do this job?" And for me, I've called Islam Makhachev fights. I've called Deron Wynn fights, and I feel like I stayed down the middle as best as I could. And so I figured I could do it. It's tough, right? Because Habib's been there for 8 years now at AKA, and we've seen him rise from the very beginning. But I got a job to do, and that's what I'm going to have to do on Saturday.
Nice.
Look, and here's another thing, right? Certain guys, if he fought, I couldn't do the job. I'm being honest. But I respect Justin so tremendously that I can do the job with him calling Justin because I like Justin so much.
Yeah,
it's hard to do it for someone that you know. Um, to call Khabib and Conor with all the bad blood, I couldn't have done that because you're so solely in your guy's corner. But Justin's a good guy.
Well, since you're praising him there, I mean, and obviously you're going to be fair about this. I mean, is he the toughest challenge of Habib's career? Because it seems like the guy that just has all the right tools that could trouble Habib.
I believe he's the toughest fight for Khabib, and for a long time, we thought that Tony Ferguson was the guy that would give him the most trouble, if there is trouble to be had. But then obviously Justin Gaethje beat Tony. And the guy that showed up there in May, I was like, wow, I just watched it, right? I was there. I was like, I just watched the most dangerous guy for Khabib. With his wrestling ability and his striking ability, I believe that he's dangerous. But there's even something that stands out to me even more. It's the confidence. I mean, this dude believes that he's going to win. Like, there's no doubt in his mind. So I think Justin's mentality is what gives him a big chance.
So that's what gives Justin a chance. But with Khabib, we know it's his wrestling, right? It's incredible. I mean, obviously the wrestling expert that you are. I mean, what is it about him, right? I mean, wrestling, tons of guys wrestle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a martial art that's been around forever. What is it about him that makes him so damn good at it?
Well, his ability to continue to chase down takedowns, right? That's what it is. Like he said something yesterday about me taking Stipe down once and then stopping because he got up. Well, he won't stop. He really will not stop. He'll continue to try to take you down until eventually you kind of go, okay, I'm going to accept being on my back. And when you accept being on your back, it's no good with him because he's so good at top control.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about outside the cage. I mean, you know what it's like to be in the spotlight, right? And have all the pressure on. Obviously, he's a global superstar, but I feel like here in particular, like the spotlight is super bright, man. Can you talk about? I mean, do you think is this a more difficult place for him to fight because of the expectations of his time, of all the attention he's receiving in the lead up to the fight?
When you think about Khabib in the Middle East, you understand that he's globally known. But here, it's like at a different level. Now, I would imagine last time he was here, it was much harder to deal with than this time. Because he's got about 10 guys with him, right? And those are the guys that stay in his circle, and they are available to him. Outside of media, nobody's in his face anymore. Could you imagine being here last year when he fought Dustin and the fans and him trying to go get some food, not being in a secure bubble? I think this is probably the ideal situation for Khabib. But yeah, he's massive here. I mean, I think there are a number of reasons why, but he's a big deal.
Nice. Last thing for me, as his teammate and as just a fight fan, man, he wins this fight 29-0. He's talked about 30-0. Book his fight, man. What's the right fight for 30-0? Like, what's the best next matchup for him? Should he win this in spectacular fashion?
The reality is, like, the task at hand this Saturday is so great because Justin's so good. But if Khabib is able to get past him and he's 29-0 looking at his retirement fight, I think it has to be St. Pierre, right? Like, that's the fight, right? Who doesn't think that? I mean, could you imagine the energy of a Khabib versus George St. Pierre fight? With fans? With fans. I mean, this would be the unbelievable athlete from the generation prior versus the unstoppable athlete from this prior. I don't know, Jim Ross said the immovable object versus the whatever, unstoppable force. It would be that, right? It would be just like that. It'd be tremendous. But I think GSP. But But I don't know, maybe a catchweight fight. Because Khabib cuts a lot to get to 55, right? So if there's ever a fight that warrants a 165-ish area, that's GSP and Khabib.
Daniel, you mentioned Gaethje's confidence coming into this fight. I mean, it does seem like he's very confident, but do you think it's inevitable? Do they all break? Does Justin break?
See, I think that's why Justin's so dangerous, because he hasn't shown that he can break. He seems to thrive in that chaos, right? When it gets uglier and dirtier and more grimy, Justin's smiling, right? Like he's smiling. He's cut up. He's gotten dropped multiple times. Dude's smiling. So I believe that he believes that that won't happen to him. And we haven't seen it, so there's no reason for us not to believe what he's saying.
When you say Khabib will just continue to chase the takedown and just transition, is that just a him thing, or is that a difference in the way he's been taught wrestling and Americans get taught wrestling?
You see, that's he's always been a good takedown guy. But before, he was just a takedown guy. Now his striking has gotten so much better. And I believe that that's not only a Khabib thing, that's also an AKA thing. You know, remember Cain Velasquez? He chased 30 takedowns versus Junior Dos Santos or something. You know, these guys will chase takedowns on a ton of occasions, you know. I've had to get multiple takedowns in fights too, right, where I just wrestled and wrestled and wrestled. And I think that we developed that in the gym. We have a drill where we're wrestling different guys every minute for 15 minutes, and they're trying to take you down, or you're trying to take them down. It's like we build these drills to try to have that ability to do that inside the fight. And I think Khabib just has taken it to the next level, right? We've seen it. I always say this about our gym in particular. Bob Cook and those guys got to the UFC. Then Mike Swick, John Fitch, Josh Koscheck got the title fights. So they blew the ceiling off of what Bob and them had done. And then me, Kane, and Luke, we became champions, right? We didn't just get to the title fights. And we blew the ceiling again. And now you got to have another guy that's going to come through and do something even greater. And that's what Khabib has done. Not only in his global appeal, but also in the way that he fights in that same type of style, but he takes it to another, he just took it to another level. None of us got 22 takedowns in a fight. He got 22 takedowns. Like, I mean, if I got 5, I was like, oh boy, I had to wrestle a lot tonight. You know, if I had to take somebody down 5 times, I'm like, that was a lot of wrestling. Kane attempted 30 takedowns, but he didn't get 20 of them, right? So like, it's one of the things that our gym really is known for.
I wanted to ask you about another guy who's been at your gym, is Tuivasa.
Yeah, it's my boy right there.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the banter like between you two? I can sort of imagine you guys playing off each other.
He's so funny. Tuivasa's funny. You know what's crazy about Ty? Ty's in AKA training with us, and I mean, we're taking him down like you wouldn't believe it. He was like, man, I knew I came here for a reason, but I didn't expect it was going to be like this. I was like, bro, every time you get up, we're on your legs. Like, we're just on his legs, constantly trying to exhaust him, to help him with that, and help him not accept being on his back. That's the one thing that kills Ty. In the last fight against the kid, was it Spivak or something like that? And the guy would take him down, and Ty would accept guard. Why? Get up. Just get up. Let's see if he is able to do that, to do what Kane used to do or Khabib does, where he has to take you down over and over again, not one round. One round's easy. So we kept taking him down, and he started to learn, and he started to get better, but then the pandemic hit. And guess what? I was with him when the pandemic hit. We were at my house on Ty's birthday, sparring in my garage before it was all complete and ready. We were just beating each other up in there. The news comes on. My wife goes, Daniel, they're about to shut down the state. So I run in the house, get in the shower. I'm like, Ty, we got to go. So Ty's like, oh, he's like, why, mate? Why? I go, bro, we got to go to the store and get food. He's like, why? I go, they're shutting down the state. So I'm like panicking, right? I dart out of the house. I get Ty into my truck, or Ty gets in his car. I'm in my truck. He's staying. I go, what? He goes, what are we supposed to do, mate? I go, get food. He goes, I'm staying in someone's house, mate. Because he was renting a room on Airbnb, right? I was like, you got to get as much food as you possibly can. So we get in the Safeway. Everything's like almost off the shelves. No toilet paper, no water. Why toilet paper? Like, he was like, why toilet paper? I was like, I don't know, but just take paper towels. Like, get something, right? Get tissues. So I'm like, and get a lot of meat, because you're a big guy, right? Like, get a lot of meat. He goes, there's no meat. All the chicken's gone. Ty comes to the front of the checkout counter. I said, get whatever you want. I'll buy it. He comes to the checkout counter. Ty has like 6 massive things of corned beef. I was like, who eats this much corned beef? He had like freaking 6-pound corned beef. I was like, yo, you're going to eat all that corned beef, it's going to make you sick. I go, you got to just get meat. He's like, I like corned beef. I was like, but you don't like it that much. Like, this is corned beef for a week. And, yeah, but we were, like, standing in there. They had 20 people in each line. He was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then eventually he left because of his son, right? He was like, DC, they're going to close Australia. He said, I got to go back. I was like, okay. I was like, I never said you have to stay. I was just trying to prepare you if you did. You know, like, if you did have to stay, you needed things and much more than corned beef. He's like, where's the rice? I was like, bro, no more rice in the store. Like, it was crazy. My local Safeway was, like, empty. Yeah, I was with Tuivasa.
He's, like, lost a couple, right? He's coming in, the pressure's on. He admitted to us yesterday, the other day, that it was an eye-opener coming to AKA, probably because of the takedowns he was facing. Is he a talent? Is he a talent heavyweight? Have people forgotten? Are they underappreciating him?
Ty's very talented, right? But here's the thing, and this is something he admitted to me himself. He didn't know. He said, I was kind of just freestyling this thing. So to go 3-0 in the UFC without really knowing how to fight, how to grapple, that's insane that he was able to do that. That speaks to his talent, right? Speaks to his courage. But you need more than that. You need actual skill. And I think that he's been able to kind of develop that.
Last thing for me, you know how when you speak to Khabib, you take on a broken Russian accent?
Yes.
When you talk to Ty, do you take on like a weird Australian accent?
I mean, Ty is so out there, man. Have you hung out with Ty at all? He's the
Been
best.
around him enough.
He's the best, bro. Like, you don't need to pick up anything. You can barely, like, yeah, I talk to him normal. He's the best. I like Ty, though. He's funny, man. He's funny. He's a funny guy.
The Olympics has already obviously been postponed to this summer. Justin's been very much like, I'm representing the United States over here. Do you view this as like the next best thing right now? Because we don't really have sports between countries for the foreseeable future.
I think that Justin is, again, you find motivation in different things, right? He finds his motivation in representing our country because Khabib is Russian, right? He is Russian, right? So he's like, it feels like Rocky IV, and I love that dynamic. I love that he is making that a part of the story because that makes a lot of the American fans go, you know what? But I got to tell you one thing about that. That does not matter as much as you would expect. I was at, I don't know where Anderson fought Chris Weidman the first time, but I was there, right? I was there, filled to the brims with the American pride, red, white, and blue, USA with flags on the set where I'm not supposed to. And Chris Weidman came out and they booed him in Las Vegas. And Anderson Silva came out and they cheered him like he was the American guy. That does not matter that much in our sport. It doesn't. So if it's for Justin, it's great. But Anderson got cheered, Chris got booed in Las Vegas. It may as well have been Rio de Janeiro.
Sorry. Michael Chandler was actually going off that. Michael Chandler did a media day too, and he said when there were rumors of him possibly fighting Islam, his DMs just blew up with Pakistani fans. So what is it about those fans that they get so intense when it comes to their fighters?
Well, I mean, it's Dagestan. I mean, you been there? I have. They're not doing all that much over there, you know. They're learning to fight and wrestle. You know, I wrestled there. Them dudes can all wrestle. You know, they're like, you know, they're not hanging out like going to the movies. Like they're wrestling and they're fighting, right? They're with their family. So yeah, it's Dagestan. I love it. I love it. Now let's not take it like I hate Dagestan, but there's not much to do. So when a guy like Islam, who's so well known, gets an opportunity to fight on the same card as Khabib and Umar, right? Because Umar was supposed to fight too. They're like, wow, this is like this is like Chicago when the Bulls were the best. Or this would be LA right now. You know, like going crazy because the Lakers won. But yeah, it's Dagestan. And they're very loyal to their guys.
And then one final one, a lot of the narrative has been like Dagestan versus U.S. wrestling. But what do you make of the striking between the two? Because Chiesa said Khabib's incredibly underrated.
Mhm.
Khabib's joking about he has a good jab. Justin,
He does have a good jab. You saw him control Al Iaquinta with a jab, right? He controlled Al. When he couldn't take Al down as easy as he wanted to, he just controlled him with a jab. He has a really good jab. But if you talk about stand-up strike, Justin Gaethje is the better striker. Overall, he's the better striker. Do I feel Khabib can hold his own there? Yes. But Gaethje's the better overall striker. Much more comfortable there, much more confident, and hits harder. You know, so, yeah, Khabib does have the ability to stand up. People do underrated striking. There was a video came out a few weeks ago from him fighting Kamal Shalarus, and he was just taking all these bad shots and kind of dumped them. Those days are way in the past. He's a much more competent striker today than he was back then.
Who taught him his jab?
I taught him the jab. That's my jab. I was like, because we used to just stand there trying to punch each other in the face with a jab. Oh, that's a jab, DC. I'm like, yeah, you got me with that one. But we just keep throwing the jab. Javier actually showed me to. Javier did. Yeah.
DC over here. I actually want to look ahead a bit to next week. We have Anderson Silva in his last fight. I mean, you're a guy who fought him. I mean, can you just talk about at the end of his career, what's it like for you to say that you got to add one of the GOATs, to your resume?
Man, when I saw that, I gotta admit, like I kind of had like it was a bit like I was kind of taken back, like it's finally gonna be done for Anderson. It kind of sucked, right? Like everybody hoped that he would be done prior, but now that you watch him fight, I still get that thing, right? When his song comes on, and I hope he comes out to his song instead of his son's song like last time. It's just too different, right? Like keep the DMX song. It is like who you are, and you still get that excitement because it's Anderson. So kind of sucks that he's going to be done, but all of our time comes, right? You can only hold on for so long, and Anderson realizes that, so it's over. But yeah, it was phenomenal to compete against him and get a victory. It's nerve-wracking though. It really is. Doesn't matter how long he's had to train. You look across the octagon, and there's Anderson Silva, and you are taken back to Philadelphia when he fought Stephan Bonner or Forrest Griffin, and it was my first UFC ever. And I'm in the stands, and I see Anderson hit the curtain, and people go crazy. And on the camera is Roy Jones, because he wants to fight him when Roy Jones is everything that every young black man thought of as boxing. So you knew that this guy was next level star, right? You're taken back to that the moment you stand across the octagon with him, especially for me.
Now, you've been a part of Khabib's career. You've obviously, been tied to John Jones. You have Anderson Silva. Where do you put him on that list of, these top guys?
Man, listen, I think Anderson is one of the greatest fighters of all time. But I do stand firm in what I say. You cannot have bad tests. You can't have bad tests and be considered the best of all time. It's just the way it is. You can't have bad tests. Does not matter what it is. It does not matter what the excuse or reason. You can't have bad tests because so many of us don't, right? If everybody was having bad tests, okay, I get it. But there are a lot of guys that have reached the highest level of the sport without having bad tests. So he will always stand amongst the greatest. But it's really hard to give anyone that distinction if they have bad tests.
Michael Chiesa was here before. He spoke a little bit about his face-off with Khamzat Chimaev, and you actually wrestled him. How did it all happen? You guys were in the same restaurant?
So I have this thing, right? When I see a Russian guy, I wrestle him. So that's pretty much all it is. Like, oh, you're Russian, you know how to wrestle, right? They do every time they wrestle me. So I grab them by the arm, they start to defend, and I start to defend, and we end up wrestling. So that's what Lene asked me yesterday. She goes, I saw Khabib for the first time a couple days ago. I gave him a hug, and I miss you. And he's like, I miss you. And then immediately into the wrestling. Because that's what we do. She's like, do you guys just wrestle when you see each other? I said, every time. We could be, if I was to be walking in the middle of Times Square, and I see a guy with a bit of a square head like Khabib and him, they all have that square head. I'm like, oh, this dude's a wrestler. And I'll go grab him, and we'll probably start wrestling in the middle of Times Square. It's just the way it is.
And also, the last time you were here, we spoke about Khamzat's teammate, Guram, and you said you promised you're going to learn his last name if he's going to win.
Yep.
So were you impressed with his performance?
I was, and I knew his last name on Saturday because I said it so much, but now I can't say it anymore. But, yeah, I thought he did good. I thought he was hard on himself. But I was also very impressed with his opponent. Gamrot. Yeah. Guram started the fight so impressively. But then Gamrot actually worked his way back into that fight. That's why Guram was so disappointed. Because into the second round, in the third round, I felt like it was Gamrot's fight, right? So... And when you're a fighter and you're in there, and those last 15 minutes, those last 10 minutes pass, and you're getting taken down over and over again, you start to feel that too. I thought he did good, though. For a guy taking a fight on short notice, fighting an undefeated fighter, I thought he did well.
There was also a funny moment when you bumped into a camera
Yeah, it was
when
bad.
at that moment.
That was me. Maybe when Gamrot fought at that point and Guram fought, I was still concussed from the camera. It was like turned face. That happened 3 times. But it was my fault, actually. I was mad at the cameraman initially, but it was actually my fault. I guess I'm supposed to interview from the opposite side and then go behind the fighter. And then I look and I saw Rogan, and he always does. Rogan immediately turns and goes behind the fighter. So I was like, wow, it's my fault. I was like, you got to stop standing so close to me. And he's like, dude, you're supposed to. I was like, oh, all right. My bad.
Any other questions?
Just because you mentioned his name, Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson.
Mhm.
Excited? You watching? How do you see it going?
I mean, who's not watching? Like, who's not watching Roy Jones and Mike Tyson? This is going to be one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. I can't wait. It's going to be... I'm going to try to go there. If they let people in the arena, I'm there. If they let people in the arena, I'm there. I don't care what my role is. I want to be a part of that pay-per-view.
And to be clear, if somebody sees you on the street, it's okay to try to take you down, but not to say, I bet I could take you down.
Don't say you can. Don't bet me, but try. If you bet me now, we got a lifetime rivalry. Bet me. I bet I can take you down. Don't do that. Hey, listen. Also, listen. Let me just say this. I'm a much different man today than I was in 2010, right? I had just finished wrestling. I get taken down all the time now. You got to remember, back before I fought Jones, I didn't give up a takedown through like 15 fights. But now, I mean, I've probably given up 5 in my career, but that's a lot, right? But, yeah, I've given up some takedowns. Back then, I felt like it was impossible for any fighter to take me down until Alexander Gustafsson did it twice, and I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Right? So, yeah, you can say that, whatever you want. I'm an old man now. I'm retired. Say whatever you want. I ain't fighting.
I think that's it.
All right? Thank you, guys.
DC, I do a couple questions after.
Jesus.
I'm sorry.
You guys, what am I telling you? Just let me go play my video game, man.